So imagine a towering skyscraper, right? Like weighing thousands of tons. Just this massive structure of glass and steel.
Oh, absolutely massive.
Yeah, and it's ultimately held together by just six invisible words.
Just 6.
Right. And today we aren't looking at the complex blueprints or, the intricate wiring. We're ignoring the endless material specifications that usually distract us when we talk about success.
Because we do get distracted by those,
We
definitely.
really do. So we are bypassing all of that to look at the absolute bedrock of achievement. Welcome to your custom-tailored deep dive.
It's great to be here.
And we are working from a singular, really highly concentrated source today. It's just excerpts from a text appropriately titled The Architecture of Achievement.
Such a great title, honestly.
It is, yeah. And our mission today is to sort of strip away the noise and focus on two really profound, ultra-concise maxims from this material.
You know, we often hide behind complexity, I think.
Oh, totally.
People just assume that if a plan is incredibly dense, it must be effective. But excessive detail can actually mask a complete lack of foundational integrity.
Just covering up the cracks, basically.
Exactly. And the text we're examining today, it forces us to look at the raw mechanics of how things are actually built. It strips away all the jargon until we are left with just a handful of words.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the first excerpt from The Architecture of Achievement is a mere 4 words long.
Just 4.
Yeah. The text states, "Hard work changes everything."
Wow. It is an aggressive, uncompromising statement, really.
It really is.
The author leaves zero room for nuance or, caveats.
Right, and I want to focus directly on that final word, everything.
Yeah, that's the heavy lifter there.
Because my immediate instinct as a reader, and I suspect you listening right now might share this skepticism, is to push back against that absolute claim.
Oh, for sure. It's human nature to resist that.
It is. It sounds suspiciously like a cheap motivational poster you'd see in a break room.
Right, with a picture of a mountain on it or something.
Yeah, exactly. We want to negotiate with that sentence. We want to say, well, hard work changes some things.
Right. It changes a specific skill, maybe.
Yeah, or it alters an income bracket, or maybe it just improves your cardiovascular health.
But the text fundamentally rejects that compartmentalization.
It does. It doesn't claim effort modifies the target. It claims it changes everything. And I really struggled with the sheer hyperbole of that until I stopped looking at it as a linear process and started viewing it like a chemical reaction.
Oh, interesting. Walk us through the chemistry. How does that reframe the absolute nature of the text?
Okay, so think about dropping a powerful chemical catalyst into a beaker filled with a stable liquid, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
When that catalyst hits the fluid, it doesn't just alter one localized millimeter of the water.
No, of course not.
Right, it doesn't simply turn the left side of the glass blue while the right side stays clear. A true catalyst fundamentally alters the state of the entire substance.
The whole thing reacts.
Exactly. The temperature of the beaker spikes, the molecular bonds restructure, the viscosity completely shifts.
Right, the very nature of it changes.
Yeah. So if hard work is that catalyst, introducing that kind of raw, concentrated effort isn't an isolated event. It doesn't only touch the specific goal you're aiming for.
It bleeds into everything else.
Yes. It alters the environment, it alters the container, and it basically alters the actual substance of the person doing the work.
What's fascinating here is how effectively that chemical reaction maps onto the broader theme of our source, the architecture of achievement.
Though, right, the architecture angle.
Yeah, let's translate that molecular shift into the physical world of structural engineering.
Okay, let's do it.
When you initiate genuine hard work, you are deploying the foundational force required to shift reality. You're moving from an abstract empty lot into a physical standing structure.
Right, you're actually breaking ground.
Exactly. Consider the reality of a massive construction site. The moment the heavy machinery arrives and the digging commences, the disruption cannot be contained to just the footprint of the foundation.
The disruption spills over into the surrounding ecosystem, basically.
Completely. I mean, the traffic patterns for blocks around the site are forced to reorient.
Oh, yeah, the blocked roads and everything.
Right. The economic value of the adjacent properties fluctuates. Even the way the wind moves through the street or, the way shadows are cast on the pavement is permanently altered.
Wow, even the shadows. That's a great point.
The sheer force of raising that building forces everything in its vicinity to adapt. Now, if we apply that architectural reality to human psychology, we begin to understand why the text insists on the word everything.
Because it's an inescapable disruption.
Yes. Applying unrelenting hard work to a pursuit forces a total reorientation of your internal landscape.
But I mean, does it have to?
What do you mean?
Well, what if someone is just, putting their head down to learn a new coding language or maybe train for a marathon? It feels like we might be inflating the impact of focused effort a bit.
Okay, let's test that idea. Take the marathon example.
Sure.
When a person commits to the intense, taxing labor of training for a marathon, the effort does not remain confined to the 2 hours they spend running.
No, I guess it wouldn't.
Right. Because that physical demand requires a metabolic shift, which fundamentally changes their dietary cravings.
Oh, so they start eating differently.
Exactly. And that dietary shift alters their grocery shopping habits, which impacts their financial budget.
Huh. Yeah, I see where this is going.
And the need for recovery alters their sleep schedule. Going to bed at 9 p.m. entirely restructures their social life and their relationships.
They can't go out to the bar with their friends anymore.
Exactly. They begin to associate with different peer groups. Their baseline dopamine levels adapt. They accumulate empirical evidence that they can endure physical suffering.
Which changes how they see themselves.
Yes, it alters their self-perception and even their tolerance for stress in the workplace. The localized effort cascades through their entire psychological and physical ecosystem.
So the chemical reaction heats up the entire beaker.
A whole thing.
Wow. So the word everything isn't just a motivational exaggeration. It's actually a structural warning.
A warning, exactly. That's
Yeah.
a good way to put it.
When you introduce this level of effort, you are going to disrupt parts of your life that you thought were entirely disconnected from your goal.
It is a mandate to anticipate total systemic change.
You can't avoid it.
No. If you, as the listener, decide to introduce the catalyst of true hard work into your current environment, you cannot expect the rest of your life to remain comfortably static.
It just won't happen.
Right. The text is demanding an awareness of this cascading effect. Hard work is not a surgical tool that only cuts what you want it to cut. It is a seismic event.
That reframing makes the concept incredibly potent, but it also kind of reveals a massive vulnerability, I think.
How so?
Well, let's look at the physics of this disruption. If hard work really does change everything, if it's this explosive chemical reaction or this massive mobilization of machinery that disrupts the landscape, what happens when the energy runs out?
Well, homeostasis takes over.
Right. The reaction cools down.
The heavy machinery runs out of fuel, and the environment desperately tries to revert to its baseline state.
Which naturally necessitates the second and final excerpt from our text.
We need something to hold it in place.
Exactly. We've established the catalyst, but now we have to address the structural integrity of the aftermath. And the text provides a two-word solution: stay consistent.
It is the mandatory counterweight to the initial disruption.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the tension between these two directives is just immense.
Yeah, very different kinds of energy.
They are. If we return to the building analogy tied to our source's title, The Architecture of Achievement, we can clearly separate these two types of effort.
Okay, let's lay it out.
So hard work is the crane.
The crane, got it.
Yeah, it is the raw, brute force necessary to lift a 10-ton steel beam 50 stories into the air and hold it against the sky.
Right, huge energy expenditure.
A staggering amount of energy. It changes the skyline completely, but a crane is a temporary intervention.
The crane inevitably has to detach. You can't leave it there forever.
Right. And if nothing else has happened while that beam was suspended in the air, the moment the crane detaches, gravity wins.
It just comes crashing down.
The beam plummets back to the dirt. Consistency, then, is the thousands of unseen rivets.
Oh, I like that. The rivets.
Yeah, it's the welds. It's the unglamorous, really repetitive act of tightening bolt after bolt, locking the steel into the larger frame.
And that's what actually holds the building together.
Exactly. When the wind blows at 100 miles an hour, it isn't the crane that keeps the skyscraper from tearing itself apart. It is the collective strength of those tiny, consistent welds.
Because anyone can rev up an engine and lift a beam for a single day using a brace of adrenaline.
Right. Anyone can have a great day one.
But the actual architecture relies on the staying power of the rivets.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the text is really isolating the two distinct cognitive phases required for any lasting endeavor.
Yeah, they feel like different things entirely.
They are. We often conflate hard work and consistency as the same flavor of effort, but psychologically and neurologically, they rely on entirely different mechanisms.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hard work is the action, stay consistent is the system.
How do those differ on a neurological level? Because, I mean, they both just feel like effort to the person doing them, right?
They feel different because they actually utilize different areas of the brain.
No way.
Yeah. The crane phase, the hard work, relies heavily on the prefrontal
Okay,
cortex.
the prefrontal cortex.
Right. This is where conscious, deliberate, high-friction effort lives. It is exhausting. You are forcing your brain to process new information, make complex decisions, and override your default desire for comfort.
So it burns a ton of fuel. A ton. It requires high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. But you cannot sustain that biological state indefinitely without burning out.
You just crash.
Exactly. Consistency requires shifting the load away from the prefrontal cortex and down into the basal ganglia.
The basal ganglia.
Yes, that's the part of the brain responsible for automated habits and routines.
So consistency is actually about lowering the cognitive load over time.
Precisely. Let's look at the biology of myelination, for example.
Okay.
When you repeatedly perform an action, your nervous system wraps the corresponding neural pathways in a fatty substance called myelin,
Like wrapping a wire.
exactly like insulation on an electrical wire. It allows the signal to travel faster and with far less energy.
Oh, wow.
The more consistent you are, the thicker the myelin gets, and the less raw, hard work is required to perform the action.
That makes so much sense.
Right. Hard work is the brute force required to blaze a trail. Consistency is the biological process of paving that trail so you can eventually drive over it without thinking.
That completely changes how we should view failure. I
Yeah.
mean, think about how many abandoned construction sites we have in our own lives.
Oh, so many.
Yeah, half-built projects, the abandoned fitness routines, the businesses we started but never scaled.
The landscape is literally littered with the wreckage of dropped steel beams.
Because we constantly misdiagnose what kind of effort is required.
We use the wrong tools.
We do. We pour massive amounts of hard work into a project for 3 weeks. We lift the steel beams, we disrupt our schedules, we run on adrenaline.
And then the motivation fades.
Right, and when it fades, we assume we just need to find more hard work to keep going. We keep looking for another crane.
When what we actually need is to pick up a wrench and start riveting.
Yes. We fail because we attempt to build a permanent structure using only temporary interventions.
The text separates these ideas into two commands because you have to consciously pivot from one mode to the other.
You have to know when to switch.
Exactly. Hard work is loud. It is fueled by passion, urgency, and the novelty of a new ambition.
It makes a lot of noise.
But consistency is silent. Consistency is the structural integrity of waking up when the passion has entirely evaporated, when the environment is hostile, and deciding to lay one more brick simply because the system demands it.
That is just a staggering shift in perspective. You are not just trying to achieve a fleeting goal. You are attempting to construct a reality that can permanently support that goal against the forces of entropy and gravity.
You're changing the whole landscape.
You are. You cannot build a skyscraper with just rivets. You will never get the materials off the ground.
Right, the crane is necessary.
But you absolutely cannot keep a skyscraper standing with just cranes.
Which means the architecture of achievement relies entirely on respecting the physics of human behavior.
You have to work with the physics, not against them.
Yes. You have to trigger the chemical reaction to change the state of the system, and then you have to actively build the containment unit so the new substance doesn't just evaporate.
So, what does this all mean? When we synthesize these two deeply compressed excerpts from the architecture of achievement, we are really looking at a relentless, closed-loop system.
A continuous cycle.
Right. Step 1. You must initiate fundamental change through hard work. You have to acknowledge that this effort will bleed into your environment, your relationships, and your neurobiology. It will literally change everything.
It's unavoidable.
It is. And then step 2. You must sustain that new reality by staying consistent. You have to transition away from the adrenaline of the heavy machinery and lock the new structure into place with the unglamorous, repetitive rivets of habit.
It is the complete blueprint for defying gravity. Action creates the potential. Consistency secures the reality.
And this brings the focus entirely back to you, the listener. We want you to analyze your current ambitions.
Take a really hard look at them.
Yeah, look closely at your career, your studies, or, your personal projects. I challenge you to identify where you are acting as the architect in your own life right now and to diagnose your structural needs honestly.
Ask yourself what tool you need today.
Exactly. When you look at the blueprint of what you are trying to build today, do you actually need more brute force? Do you need the massive disruptive energy of the crane to finally get your idea off the ground?
Or have you already lifted the beam?
Right. Is it currently suspended in the air? And what you desperately need right now is to stop searching for inspiration and simply focus on the mortar. Are you avoiding the quiet, essential work of consistency?
This raises an important question, actually,
Mm-hmm.
one that ultimately flips the entire concept of this text on its head.
Oh, how so?
Well, if we accept the premise that hard work changes everything, and we follow the mandate to stay consistent to prevent that change from collapsing, then achievement is not a final destination at all.
It's not a finish line or like a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Far from it. It is a continuous, unending state of transformation.
It never stops.
The work never truly stops. It simply changes form. It shifts from lifting to reinforcing, from the prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia. So, as you step back into your day, I want you to ponder this. If consistency is the daily mechanism that makes change permanent, what exactly is the everything you are actively choosing to build and permanently alter in your life today?
What a question to end on. Because ultimately, the blueprint is blank, the lot is empty, and the architecture is entirely up to you.